Broke the story on local homestead tax credit fiasco. Expose the Evansville Redevelopment Commission excessive spending habits.
Your community watchdog. CityCountyObserver.com is your online community newspaper dedicated to the progress of Evansville and Vanderburgh County. We're a nonpartisan publication providing insight into political issues and events that shape our community. We are a watchdog for you, the citizen. Check us out online, city-countyobserver.com. That's city-countyobserver.com.
Tri-State Voices, an open discussion with area leaders on issues affecting communities throughout the Tri-State. Now, here are your hosts, Cheryl Musgrave and Mark Owen.
Welcome to Tri-State Voices. I'm Cheryl Musgrave, and joining me tonight is the incomparable Mark Owen at the Tri-State region's most successful political talk show.
Well, thank you. And Cheryl Musgrave, thank you for again co-hosting the show with me, and we're going to have a great show tonight.
Well, I don't know. It's going to be a rough ride for you. The Democrats just did not do well in the primary yesterday.
Well, the Democrats did good.
They
did wonderful. I want to start out by introducing the guest here, well known on Channel 25, WEHT. It's also known as, what's the newscast name?
Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News. And it's actually two stations.
It is. WEHT, which is 25 side, and then WTVW, which is the 7 side.
And our guest is Jordan Vandenberg. Not Vanderburg, but Vandenberg, which is
the Dutch version of the county.
And Jordan has been with the station how long?
It'll be 5 years at the end of this month.
Okay, great. And you know a lot about the political scene.
I do. And especially over the last 3 or 4 years, really getting to know people and knowing the powerful people, behind everything. It's you kind of learn a lot in a short amount of time.
Well, it's great to have you.
Appreciate it.
And
Cheryl?
we also have the newly unbearded Zach Evans, which is probably why you didn't recognize him. Zach is the frontline reporter for the Courier and Press and did many of the articles that you took great pleasure in reading this year. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Cheryl, I'm originally from Kentucky, but I've lived in Evansville since the year 2000, minus a few months in Princeton when I worked at the Daily Clearing up there. Bosse High School grad, USI grad, political science major, worked at the Courier, 2 years now.
And you are the city reporter?
I'm a local government reporter. I do city and county.
Okay, so then you also, by nature of that, you're doing political?
Yes. Yes.
So you're covering the race this year?
Yep. I am one of 3 reporters knee-deep in the race. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's going to be waist deep here in a couple months.
Knee-deep in what? Well, let's talk about yesterday's election. I'm just going to throw it out there. Who won?
Well, Alex Burton won.
Yeah.
If there was a winner yesterday or Tuesday evening, it was Alex Burton.
And I was asked a while ago from one of my co-workers about his win, and I think it occurs to me that voters were trying to say we appreciate a new, young, fresh face, and we want somebody that's got some interesting new ideas, and I think that's generally what you have to assume by his win.
Well, and expanding on that, he's 26, 27. He's the same age as me, and to have that youth and that energy and those new ideas, but also have the acumen, the pedigree. He's got a master's degree. He's obviously well educated. And to see that, I think a lot of people can gravitate toward that because, you guys know better than Zach and I do how hard it is to get that young vote.
Well, let me just throw out there that Alex Burton is all that and more. But to ascribe intention to the voters who came out, I think is going a little over the top. I just want to point out that 93% of the voters stayed home on Tuesday's election.
That's true.
What we had turn out was the extreme voter. So it's an extreme
But that 6.5% really made the difference.
Yes, and I would agree that
it made the
Alex,
difference for the candidate that didn't make it out of the primary.
Well, and Alex has definitely got his voters to the polls.
But I think we all agree Alex was the big winner.
Oh, I think so.
He was. Okay, well, who was the big loser?
Well, I'm going to throw it out there, Mark, and this is where
Okay.
I think that the Rican campaign is the loser here. You can see the Democrats were in complete disarray. I don't know, Zach, you were out at covering the races. How many Democrat headquarters did you have to go to?
Well, I actually was lucky enough to just stay at one. It was the FOP Lodge, which actually had most of the winners. But there were, I think, 4 separate Democratic
I was
events
going to say at least
last
3.
night, which is, I think, unheard of. And I think Mark can probably share some insight on that. That's something that doesn't usually happen in an election.
No, and I was asked about that by one of your reporters yesterday, and I mentioned that I've never known us to have 4 separate election headquarters on election day. Typically, we have 1.
Sure.
Well,
But the party rents the facility, the party sponsors it, and there's kind of a lack of leadership in the party right now. And so, because of that lack of leadership, the candidates really didn't know. They took it upon themselves, and so you had different groups of candidates.
groups or factions, I think.
Well, I'd say
Factions,
groups.
yeah.
And they really had their own functions, and so there was a kind of a variety of different places to go, and not one united place to go. And I think that's sorely lacking because, in years past, you'd have all the Democrats together, the winners and the losers. What a great time to make up and reconcile while you're right there together on election night and be able to try to resolve some issues. And unfortunately, it was just so badly splintered. Gail Rican has the ability to pull it back together. Gail is a person that has that quality about her, that she is very good at getting people to compromise, getting people to work together. She's had that experience in the General Assembly, and I think if anybody can do it, Gail can do it. I don't know what you think.
Obviously, you have, your belief that she can do it. She has her work cut out for her. I think we all can agree on that. I mean, you're looking at, 3 or 4 different sects or factions within the Democratic Party. And, and obviously a lot of this dates back to the 2011 mayoral election. And, and it kind of, I think Tuesday night kind of gave us a glimpse on how much things have to mend, how many fences have to mend before November. And, obviously she's got a couple months to do that, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of olive branches between a lot of different people in order to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I also think that the Republicans have some fence mending to do. You saw Winnike's voters go to the polls on Tuesday, but Winnike didn't have any coattails. His at-large city council candidates did not poll the same numbers that he did, and that's a warning signal, I think, for the Republicans.
Well,
What do you think?
I mean, the primary wasn't contested for the at-large candidates.
Yeah,
so,
there's just
I'm
2.
sure some people
No.
just decided not to. There was a lot of undervotes, I'm sure.
There were a lot of undervotes for the Republicans.
I don't know if that's indicative of they don't support those candidates or they just, there
But
was no
it's-
contest, so why?
But it's a discussion point that a Winnike voter walked in the polls, voted for Winnike, and didn't vote for the Republican
Saw those
at
names and
large.
didn't vote for
That's
them.
right, they
Yeah.
skipped them. And in the general election, you can attest to this, you've been around for many decades, generally the party of the mayor's party will carry the city council.
And yeah,
The city
they do.
council races just don't, they
And the
don't-
city
aren't
clerk.
top of tickets.
And the city clerk.
Exactly. So
There have been 2 exceptions to the city clerk rule, but they were all unique. Very
Right.
unique circumstances, of which one was extremely unique.
And we don't need to go into that
No,
tonight. That's
but,
a long story.
The other thing is, and you may not think this means a lot, but Gail had over twice the number of votes the mayor did.
She really did.
And so it showed, I think a lot more Democrats came out, a lot more showed support towards Gail, and I think she's in a real good position to be able to take off and go forward from here.
I think the argument could be made that because there's such a lack or a void of contested races on the Republican ballot that why go out and vote when I really have nothing to vote for, so to speak.
But on the other hand, the hardcore political person does come out and vote. If you're a hardcore Democrat or hardcore Republican, you do come out and vote. Even if you don't have a race, you go vote. And I noticed a lot, stayed home, but then a lot of everybody stayed home.
It's true.
I'd like to touch on your point about Gail's, I guess, showing in the primary. I just don't think, I think it's meaningless. I just think it's completely meaningless. Democrats came out because there was a highly contested at-large race, a heated city clerk's race that, kind of played out in the newspaper even. I think that's why there was a strong showing. And the second ward. I know the second ward is just one of the 3 or 4 city council races that were contested for Democrats, but that was a hot one. There was about 1,000 voters that came out for that race. I think that's why Gail had a strong showing in her primary. I mean, I just think it's meaningless, personally.
Well, I don't think you can. I really don't think it can be discounted that easily. I do think Gail came out with a strong showing. I think she came out in a better position, I think, than the mayor did. So,
well, I don't know. Let me just say that the mayor seemed to get what he wanted. He campaigned off and on, not a steady stream of this, but he campaigned on give me a new city council. And what he got was two of the incumbents who've been giving him a hard time, got tossed to the curb, again by only 6.5% of the voters, but all the same, they are gone. Now, 4 of the current members of the city council are lame ducks.
Yeah, right. And that was going to be a point that I was going to make is what does this mean moving forward up until the election? I mean, the city council meetings have kind of turned into a series of theatrics the last couple of months, and it'll be interesting to see if that ramps up as we get closer to November. If there's going to be any sort of more or less campaigning within council chambers.
Well, look at the timing of it all. The election's in November, and the budget has to be decided by November.
Yeah,
but
so it's almost within days that it has to be sent.
I think the majority of the council members will not be on the ballot. So in terms of will politicking ramp up, I don't really know that politicking will, because some of the strongest critics are not even going to be running for re-election.
So they have nothing to lose.
But I mean, you've got Councilman Friend, who is the treasurer of Gail's campaign, so obviously he's got some vested interest there.
Well, and I think he may be reconsidering that, because I think
you mean not being treasurer?
Yeah, I think he may be reconsidering.
Oh, I see.
Whether he wants to continue to do that, because there has been some people say, well, that's the only reason you're saying things is because you're her treasurer. And he certainly has given it a lot of thought. I don't know that he made a final decision yet. But he really feels strongly with what he's talking about in city finances. And he wants to make the case and be able to, I mean, he feels extremely strongly as a CPA and as a money manager that the city's not on the right track.
Yeah, I think another big winner was Connie Robinson. Connie, I think, outpolled everyone with like 73% of the vote.
I noticed that. I paid it, yeah, I was looking at percentages. Incredible turnout for Connie. And the fact that there are now 2 black candidates on the ballot for November, I think, is that a first for Evansville? I think no,
it may well be.
I don't think so. I mean, we've had, the Democrat Party's had other times when we've had, more than one minority on the ticket at the same time. I don't think I think maybe in the time when Estelle Moss was elected county recorder that Bill Taylor might have been elected county councilman at the same time. Okay. So there are some firsts like that. But what I'll say is, I think it's great that Alex, people always say, well, Evansville's not going to elect a black citywide. And
see why not?
I don't think that matters. I mean, Alex is not, we had him on the show. He's a bright,
very
young
articulate and,
individual. He's with Old National
smart.
Bank. He's got a great career ahead of him. You know, he's
and a terrific campaigpner. Did
he'll
you
learn how to
notice?
toughen up real quick, won't he,
Probably why he
Cheryl?
had such a strong showing was how hard he worked.
Oh, no.
He put boots on the ground.
He really did.
Prototypical grassroots, you know, because he came in as a relative unknown, unless you worked at Old National Bank or you knew his family or something like that, and he quickly gained some name recognition that you don't see that happen that quickly.
And what his voters did was remarkable.
Yeah.
They walked into the polls, and in this race, the at-large race, you can pick three, and the Democrats had 4 people on the ballots, 4 candidates on the ballot.
For 3 seats.
Yep. His voters walked in, voted for him, and then went on to other races.
Yeah.
It was called a one-punch effort, and you can see that there were a tremendous number of undervotes in
About
that race.
3,000, I think.
Yeah.
It
But
was
that's almost
phenomenal.
as many as he got
In total, yeah.
Right. So he demonstrated that he can campaign and that he can get his voters to do what needs to be done to put him over the top. And that, I think, is the mark of a leader. I think he's a man to watch.
Yeah, and I do agree,
certainly.
by the way, on Connie Robinson. Connie, number one, demonstrates great leadership and I think a great knowledge of the Fourth Ward. And she is definitely probably the most powerful or influential black leader in the community. And she just demonstrated that again, you know, yesterday in the election, that she certainly has clout and she is able to get things done. And she does. She gets things done.
But I think that the challenge for that voting bloc is sharing, that they have to share this success.
What do you think Tuesday means for the Lindsay family moving forward? Because obviously Al got booted, Misty didn't win her primary, and then one of their big allies, Steve Davis, lost a nail biter in the second ward. What do you think it means for that family? That is a very, very political family. That's all they know. What do you think it means for them moving forward?
I don't know if Al Lindsay's going to be in politics again.
Yeah.
He made comment to a reporter yesterday that he might just move back out of the city limits and into the county. So
Yeah.
I think he might be done. I can't say the same for Misty Hart. She really dug her feet into the election, but maybe she'll try again in 4 years, or maybe she'll try a county race. In
I
2016.
read an article somewhere today, and maybe it was the Courier, but I saw a quote of hers that she intends to run for office again.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That might have been right.
She
And
sent
so-
me an email
Yeah,
to
that
that
was-
effect.
And I think she ran a good campaign. You never know. I think there were some errors that she possibly made during the campaign that, certainly the story by the Courier in the last week wasn't helpful to her, and that may have cost her some support. But, when you campaign, when you run for office, you learn.
Oh,
and
The hard way sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
There's always going to be a loser, and that's the
Yeah.
hard reality of it all. Somebody's going to lose.
I think another face that we'll see come back is Connor O'Daniel.
I think.
I
Yeah.
think that, the way the voters walked into the polls and voted for one candidate and walked out, that left him on the losing end. In my opinion, Connor O'Daniel didn't lose this race. He didn't get voted out.
It was
He
a
just
bad
didn't get
call.
voted in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
do
talked
we
to, yeah,
react?
and I talked to Connor this morning, and I don't know. I don't know that he would run again. I mean, Connor.
Maybe not for city council, but for something else.
I don't know. Connor. Well, the ideal situation for Connor would be to run for a judge position.
Oh, hadn't even
I mean,
thought
that
of
would be the ideal position. He has that kind of a personality
Yes, he does.
that would serve well in the judiciary. Connor is a very thoughtful and a very deep person that really thinks things through. And
Isn't that what Randy Shepard did? Wasn't he? Yeah,
Yeah,
same
yeah,
path.
that's true.
That turned out well.
yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
be-
he's started well.
I
Yeah, I
wouldn't.
think he's doing all right for himself.
I don't necessarily see Connor in a political position that's partisan, but perhaps in a
Judge.
judicial race. Yeah, that would be more likely. It was an interesting day. It was.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think voter turnout speaks speaks a lot. 6-7%. I mean, that's paltry, and it was
Oh, it's terrible.
almost bad news for most of the incumbents. Actually, almost all of them. what do you think about the second ward race? Were you guys anticipating it to be that close?
Yeah, I thought it would be
There's no way
close.
it wasn't going to be close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it would be really close.
Did you cover that?
Yeah, that was my ward. I talked a lot with Steve and Missy over the last 4 months about issues and complaints and things like that. It was a very heated race, and it wasn't just because of personal vendettas. It was two really different ideas coming against each other. I mean, they couldn't be the more opposed Democrats. I mean, Steve had ideas about crime and public safety that Missy was completely on the other side about. Steve wants to sell parks or lease them out to other entities, and Missy would probably add 100 parks if she could.
Yeah.
So I think that's what made that race interesting, other than the dirty grit of it all, which was
There was
part of it.
that.
There was
Yeah.
quite a bit. Yeah, that's for sure.
No, I think philosophically, they were, like you said, the complete opposite ends. And I think most of us expected that to be a tight race, and it sure came down to it. So
what do we think? Will the parties nominate any new candidates to fill those vacant slots? Will we see some new Republicans? We have one at-large seat open, or is there some architect behind all this ballot maneuvering to get the ideal slate at the end of the day?
I'd say this is the ideal slate for the Republican Party. I don't think they're going to put the resources out and putting candidates in any of those races. I think
You don't think so, even in the second ward, even if
I think and that-
Missy did show some sort of vulnerability? If you
I
will?
think she showed a lot of vulnerability. She definitely did. That was
Sure.
too close to go sailing into a fall election all confident.
Well, she is. I mean, I'm not going to call her a close ally, but she does kind of fall in line with some of the Republican administration's proposals. And I mean, she's a yes vote on a lot of those things.
I'll call her a close ally.
Yep, there
I'll
we
vote
go.
for
See,
that.
you'll go so far as to call it close ally. So I mean, I don't know why they'd want to lose that. Not that if they put their own candidate up,
That's a
they
good
might
point.
still have that. But I think it'd be a waste of money, waste of
Don't
time.
bite the hands that
I don't
feed
think they're
you.
going to put an at-large candidate because I think they're going to put their stock in. I mean, Republicans. Correct me if I'm wrong. Republicans haven't had more than one city council person since the 70s, right? Am I wrong there?
I thought we
yeah,
had two
they have.
once. Yeah.
city
but
council.
We had two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think
No,
we
no,
had
we've
two.
had-
We had Jim Price and
when's the last time we had
T.T.
two? That was
Tiemann.
90s.
Yeah.
But okay, so more than
Hey,
two.
I remember the 90s.
Let's
This wasn't
see.
that long ago.
Yeah, sorry. But I guess the last time there was a Republican majority, I guess is my better way to phrase
Oh,
it.
Now,
was
that's
the
been a
70s.
long time.
Yeah, I
So
can't
that was
remember
Russ Lloyd Sr.'s
Yeah, that's been a long
administration.
time.
That would be the 70s.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. I think it lines up well for them right now. I mean,
Well, the one exception to your thinking is perhaps the Democrats will come up with a first ward candidate. And I think they do see the first ward as moving in a direction that is more Democrat.
Do you have a
And
name
that
for
they
it?
have,
graphically has changed with
Yeah.
the last.
well, I don't think he said yes yet.
Oh, but
So,
you can't tell us who it is.
I think he's
Oh, the
considering,
mystery.
but he's still, hasn't made up his mind. But I think there's a possibility the Democrats will have a candidate in the first ward. And if that happens, I think it's great. I always, and we've talked about this, I hate to see candidates run unopposed, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I do too.
I think
Yeah.
it's
I
bad
just
for
don't think it's
our-
good government.
No,
our
yeah.
democracy for that.
Yeah.
I
type
mean,
of-
the more voices, the better.
Yeah.
Because not only does it, as a voter, you can align with someone that you agree with them philosophically, but I think if you're the person going up against them, that collaboration, that exchange of ideas makes you a better candidate.
Well-
I equivalent to when I played baseball in high school, which seems so long ago. You always played up to your competition. If the team was better than you, you always played better. And I think if you have an uncontested race, you lose that je ne sais quoi, so to speak.
Well, not only do you lose that, but you gain an incumbent who feels that they are invulnerable, and they don't have to listen to anybody anymore because they're so good that nobody would even run against them. So to avoid that frame of mind in our elected officials. I think that you really should have an opponent. Well, what about the Libertarians? Do you hear anything from them?
They do have a mayoral candidate and an at-large candidate. I don't have their names offhand right now, but they do have a mayoral candidate and an at-large candidate.
I did not know that. Did you?
I don't know. That might be the first time in our city's history. You guys might know better about that.
Maybe there was one, because I remember an argument about whether he could be at a debate. But it didn't make a lot of...
Need another
I
podium.
remember
That's
there
a common
have
complaint
been
of libertarians.
candidates from third party / independent for city council before.
Right.
I do remember that.
Independents are pretty common.
And I don't know what all the specifics are, how you do that, but I think you just have to have a petition with
I think it's
X number of
2%
names.
of the ward or the at-large.
Okay.
In the clerk's race, so you have to have 2% of the vote in petitions. And registered voters, they have to be actual registered voters.
And that's not terribly uncommon, though it doesn't happen very often. I don't recall a mayor, we might have, I think, maybe in one of the races McDonald ran, there might have been a third-party candidate, but
they generally don't ring the bell.
I see what you did there.
But it's going to be a long summer, I think, and I hope that, we hope that we can get the candidates back again for debates right here on Tri-State Voices, because we know how much you enjoy them. We'd really like to have an hour-long debate with the mayoral candidates, and
I think you would need an hour at least.
Absolutely.
now we're going to do a debate on the show, Tri-State Voices. Is your station going to do a debate?
I believe so. I believe we've reached out to both mayoral candidates, and as a benefit for our setup at Eyewitness News is that we have that 9 o'clock show, which is an hour long, and you're always looking for good quality content and maximizing resources, and especially this time of year when you have hotly contested races, you want to give them time to explain their ideas and things like that. So I anticipate we'll have something during our 9 o'clock show at some point in the coming months. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if Gail really can rally the troops, so to speak, and if she'll face any resistance from within those multiple different factions within the Democratic Party. Because otherwise, if she can't, it's going to be like Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again.
Right. Is the Courier going to do any debates?
I think we typically partner with WNIN and the League of Women Voters in election years. So it'll be WNIN's studios and all that, but we will be involved in some manner.
And you do think it will happen?
Oh, I don't want to say 100% because I'm not involved in those discussions, but yeah, I feel confident we'll have that.
I think it's important for as many news outlets to do that as possible.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because we need to get the voter participation up.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
And we are close to...
It's too much of an exclusive club right now, and millions of dollars are at stake, and the condition of the road in front of your house, if you have to have it be personal. But yeah, we need to have more candidates on the ballot, and we need to have more people show up at the polls.
And, and just a thought, too, I know that the city attorney, Ted Ziemer, did have a rather serious accident. We wish him and his family well.
Certainly.
And I did want to extend that to Ted. He's a very nice fellow and
a good Republican.
And a good Republican, but I want to extend that to the family. Again, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. We've enjoyed having you. We look forward to seeing you next week.
This year in the Tri-State, 1 out of 8 people will be in an accident.
Would you know what to do?
Pain and suffering, lost time if you're working.
When you call Woods & Woods, you are not a statistic. You are our client, and we will fight to get the money you deserve.
If you're in an accident, Call Woods & Woods if you want justice.
If you've been injured, call 1-800-544-2108.
Let Woods & Woods work for you. You don't owe us a dime unless we win your case.